Everyone, thanks for joining our Pro Customer Course webinar. I assume you guys are all here to make sure your customers are successful. You want them to stay with you and eventually buy more over time and learn how to do this process or make this process as efficient as you can. So I'll start with introducing myself. My name is Omer Gottlieb. I'm the co-founder and chief customer officer of Totango. And the main thing that I wanted to do with you today is actually share a lot of the knowledge and best practices that we've learned from other customers on what's the best way to actually manage a customer success organization and customer success processes. One thing to remind is that that's not a one-size-fits-all. So I'm going to include a lot of examples in the session today. Hopefully you'll get a lot of ideas on what's the right things for your company, but you need to remember that different companies run different processes, so not all of the examples will be right for you guys. So again, thanks for coming. The agenda that I will cover today is, again, start a discussion on why becoming a pro-customer company. We'll discuss the customer success goals and approach. We'll spend a lot of time on the methodologies, use cases, examples from other companies, speak about metrics and what are the things that you need to measure, and then a short discussion about the results that you might expect. As always, we'll conclude with the summary, the top 5 or maybe 6 takeaways that you can take from this webinar, discuss some next steps, and I'll leave some time for questions and answer at the end. The best way to send us questions during the webinar is to just email, my email here, so feel free to send it either during the webinar or after the webinar itself. So let's start. Becoming a pro-customer company. I've covered many of these discussions in the previous webinars. I'll do that shortly today. And the idea is that customers or companies understand that they need to move from product-centric company to customer-centric company. And to do that, you have to actually be a pro-customer company, meaning you always have to provide value, so pro value. How do I provide value to my customers? You need to be proactive, and you need to do that in a professional way. So these are the three pro customer things that we preach to: providing value, being proactive, and always be professional in the way that you actually do that. If you do that, and that's what we experience with our other customers, then focusing on customer value will make your customers successful. It'll eventually will help you to increase customer acquisition rates, increase retention rate, of course, and eventually increase your customers' lifetime value. These are some of the results that we were able to achieve for our customers based on our tools and methodology. Again, this is a part of a series of webinars that we're doing on how to become a pro-customer company. We did already 2 of them. One was for free trial. The other one was customer lifecycle marketing. The next one is 2 weeks from now regarding upselling and renewals. If you haven't had the time to actually watch them live, there's also links to videos in our website, so feel free to actually go into our website and watch those. And this webinar will probably be there as well in a couple of days. So let's start by discussing the customer success goal and approach. And we say that the goal should be, of course, to make your customers successful. It's not just about how do I increase revenue. It's not about how do I reduce churn. If you're going to make your customers successful, eventually they'll stay more with you. They'll buy more over time, and this will actually lead you to high retention rate and high customer lifetime value. So the goal is, how do I make my customers successful? But the truth is that the world has changed, and actually customers have now a lot of decision power. They're in the drive seat, and the question is, how do you take back the control? And we do that by always providing value and build trust. And this is something that you probably noticed throughout the entire series of the webinars, and this is what leads to Totango as a company. Drive to provide value. if you do whatever you need to make sure your customer sees value from your product, from your processes, from your discussions, then of course renewals, upsells, and also endorsements, which is very important. I'll discuss this later in this webinar, they will follow. Give to get, that's how you're going to beat your competition. Eventually, feature by feature comparison, you may be better now, they are maybe better now, you may be comparing to each other, but if you provide the best value, the best services, this is your way to actually beat the competition. So let's discuss how we do that. Let's speak about our methodology and use cases. And the first thing that I actually wanted to share with you, which is a very important piece of the methodology, is the lifecycle journey. I'm sure some of you already saw this map, but again, very important to me to emphasize this again. Your customers are actually going through a lifecycle journey. Throughout the different lifecycle stages, they actually are going to different checkpoints, and along the way, they have to make a lot of decisions. And like it or not, most of the decisions they are making without you. They're going to make without you. We covered part of this journey at a free trial conversion webinar and mainly discussed about first value. But along the way, customers always need to make a decision. They need to make a decision to grow in usage and functionality, in users, and explore more things. And they can always decide not to do that. So you have to understand that each one of your customers is probably in a different stage. And by the way, you're going to have a lot of different journeys because different type of customers behave differently. If I'm Nike, I'm probably going to behave differently than if I'm a small company with just 10 people. And if I'm a company that just started the onboarding process with you, I would probably behave differently than somebody who's already 2 years with you guys. So the first thing to understand is you have different life cycle stages and you have different life cycle journeys. And one of the things we discussed in the previous webinars is how to map this and how to actually have a map of your customer life cycle journey. So that's the first step, understanding the different stages, different journeys, and trying to map each one of your customers to these steps. The second thing, of course, is one of the motives of this webinar is driving to value. Let's start by actually how to define a value. And again, just some example here, but usually we speak about 3 different definitions. The first one mainly targeted for customers on the onboarding phase, first value. How do I get them to first value as soon as possible? And you need to decide for your company and your product what is the right first value. You know, the formal definition, of course, is the highest business value delivered in the shortest amount of time. I always like to give an example from the project management domains. We have a couple of customers that are providing project management solutions. So first value for these guys would probably mean creating a first project, creating a couple of tasks. It's very important also inviting colleagues and starting to collaborate with them on the first project. So that's, again, one definition. The second definition, which I don't like a lot, but people tend to use it, is just enough value. Meaning, what do I need to make sure that actually customers keep using my product? And the third one, which of course is what we drive to be there, is high value. How do I turn my customers to be advocates? So think about what is the right value definition for your customers, but you have to come up with what is value for them. Let's speak about some value indicators. Again, some examples, again, not one size fits all. There could be different examples for your companies, but again, the main thing and the thing we saw with our customers is product usage and also product coverage. So are they using, how do I know if they see value? Are they using the right features? Are they exploring all my areas of the product? So they could be very active, but just using like 20% of my product. Do they see value? Could be. Can they see more value? Probably. So one main indicator is, again, product usage and product coverage. Other thing is active users. It could be like the organization have 50 licenses and 5 of them are very, very active, and their guys do see value, but again, what about the rest of the 40, 45? So active users is also something which we do encourage you to measure and understand as an indicator if somebody sees value. Other more soft indicators could be, for example, type of users. If that's relevant for your company, For example, is the CEO of the customer using you guys? If not, maybe, again, there's a place to provide more value. Think of it, how do I make sure the executive management of my customers are using my product? And last example, which is also important, is actually endorsements. How do I know if somebody sees value? If they're willing to publicly say good things about me, provide case studies, provide referrals, tweet about you, share in Facebook. So every public endorsement is also something that people do mainly when they see value and not before that. So again, define what are the value indicators for you guys, and of course then you'll actually be in a better way to know if somebody sees value or not. Once we define value, I want to speak about segmentation, which is also very important because not everyone is the same. Different customers behave differently, and again, different stages. And usually what we do is start with 4 main generic buckets. Again, very initial, and I'm assuming for each one of you the buckets might be different and probably should be much more fine-tuned. Just to understand the methodology, the basic segmentation is actually segmenting customers to, again, paying customers. For people that never really completed onboarding, so there's probably something that was wrong with the onboarding process. They never saw value. And your target tool there would probably, let's get them back from start and restart the process and get them to value. The second bucket is people that saw value, that were using your system, but something happened. There was a sudden decline in usage. And of course, the thing that you need to do is alert to your customer success team, check what's going on with them, and get them back to track. That's, of course, very, very important to reduce churn and increase retention. The third one is people that are actively using your application. They do see value, but I'd say there's plenty of room to actually push them forward to more value, maybe explore more features and more functionalities, and maybe expand the usage within the entire company. So they're okay, but you can do much better. And the ideal is actually drive as many customers as we can to the high license feature utilization, which is the best way to actually convert your customers to be an advocate. And we do see that even in Totango, when you have customers that are your advocates, they're doing a lot of things for you. They're going to send you referrals, and they're going to do case studies for you, and they're actually increasing the value of your company significantly. Again, your job would be, how do I push those segments to be high license and feature utilization? So segmenting your customers is something which is very important. Some other examples, and again, if somebody wants a specific consultation about how do I segment my specific customer base, feel free to reach out after this session. But usually the main 2 buckets are, of course, onboarding and establish. For onboarding, I would look for probably people that are spending much more time in the onboarding process than needed, so they didn't get to a specific value point in time. People that are on track, which is fine, you just need to monitor them, and of course people that are stopped using on the onboarding phase, red alert, do something with them immediately. And for customers that are established, who's on track, who are my champions? We'll speak about how to encourage champions in a minute. Who are those customers that are at risk? Customers, by the way, that are an absolute potential because they're starting using advanced features, and based on the use case, that you can actually upgrade them and upsell them. And also customers that do see value, but as I said before, low product coverage. So they do see a lot of value from 1 or 2 specific areas of the product. Imagine what they'll think when you actually expose them to 3 other modules that can provide them with a lot of value. And again, I bet that's the best way to actually make sure they see value and become champions. When you think about segmentation and how to segment your customer base, I also recommend to consider other things as well. First of all is demographics. Segmentation is also about how do customers are supposed to behave. And some of the things that actually influence this are, of course, demographics. For example, again, a big customer might behave differently than a small one. Maybe US customers behave differently than international ones. Could be type of customers, verticals. Think of the roles. If I'm selling to a VP of marketing, should I expect him to behave the same way as if I'm selling to a product manager, for example? And also think about previous interactions that you've had with them. Are you doing monthly checkup? When was the last time that somebody spoke with them? Did they attend the training? What's, how many support tickets they opened lately? Whether there was an increase or a decrease in that? Did you meet them? So there's a lot of indicators that you can actually gather that eventually should influence on a behavior and explain you where somebody is actually on the value path and value chain. So let's discuss for a second about alarming signals. What should I be looking for? So the signals we usually recommend to monitor, first of all, again, we do see that usage is the main indicator for engagement, is the main indicator to understand if somebody sees value or not. So first of all, look for usage drop, both in the account level, so how is the account, how does the account behave, and also on number of users. So again, it could be that the level of activity done by the entire account is okay, but you lost like 30% of your users. Again, that's an alarming signal that you should attend to. The second thing is not covering functionality. If you're using just 50% of your product, I would say that that's a signal that, again, you should need to be alerted for. An admin change. If your champion actually changed though, and that's actually a nice story by one of our customers. They got an alert and noticed that there was an admin change in one of their customers, so they proactively, again, you need to be proactive, they proactively called the new admin and just told them that, wow, the person that was actually responsible for your system, she just left the company for maternity leave, and I really don't know what to do now. And that's great that you called, and actually they tried to transform almost a crisis and they turn this customer to a champion. So again, an admin change, that's a great example or a great signal to monitor. Again, not always it will signal you there's something wrong, but it will signal you that there's something that you need to attend. That's a good it's a checkpoint to speak with the customer and see if you can help them. No interaction in the last few days, few weeks, few months, and that really depends, if you're a low-touch business or high-touch business, if you have many accounts or if you have fewer accounts. So if you do expect your customers to be in touch with you or get, respond to your email, respond to your phone calls, attend webinars and things like that, also monitor when there was no interaction for the last period. And also support tickets. If somebody is opening a lot of support tickets, it could be an indicator that there's something wrong. So again, these are just examples of signals to monitor to understand whether somebody is on track or not and what's the overall health of a specific customer. Let's speak about engagement play. So up till now, we analyze, we define value, we define different segments, we defined alarming signals. But what we do, how do we actually take this into action and drive customers more to value? When you think about it, our motto is the right action with the right customer, of course, at the right time. And when you define engagement plays, you need to define a goal. For example, I want to push to a value point, so one engagement play would be, let's deal with all customers that aren't covering more than 30% of my product. And the goal should be, I want to make sure they'll start using other features of the product that I haven't used before. The event would be that, for example, when you identify a use case like that, channels is how you interact with your customers. And that's something which is very different from different type of customers. If you have fewer accounts, then the best way is probably give them a call, even maybe meet them. If you have high volume accounts, then of course it's probably an email campaign or things like that. And you also need to think about the message. What am I trying to do with them? So with these guys, for example, I would start sharing with them ROIs and case studies about other customers that use the functionality that they're not using, and again, drive them to value. So the right action with the right customer at the right time. Let's speak about how to drive value. I mean, think of it. You have many tools that, if you use them correctly, you're going to create a wow effect with your customers. Some of them are listed here. We have plenty of other ideas, but these are things that actually work well with our customers. First of all, product expertise. I mean, speak with your customers. And show them how they get more from your product. Identify the use case. Identify where they can actually, things that they're not using correctly, and teach them something. So be proactive and actually share a lot of your product expertise and domain expertise with them. The second one is based on data, insights. If you have relevant data in your product, call a customer and say, I looked at your data and I found out this and this and this. Imagine if you're speaking with a VP of product and you give him data. Right now you can go to the CEO and teach him something. In a minute you turn them into a champion. So if there's relevant data in your product that relate to a value that you can create with your customers, invest time in this. You could do that manually. We do that sometimes automatically. Again, it really depends on the solution that you have, but share this with your customers on a periodical review and actually turn them into a champion. It's also about sharing domain knowledge. So in Totango, for example, we do share with our customers a lot of data that we gather, a lot of benchmarks, a lot of processes. By the way, this webinar is actually a good example. We have some prospects in attending, but also some customers. So we do share a lot of domain knowledge with our customers. Again, that's one of the ways to provide value for all your customers. Public endorsements, go to case studies with them. Make sure everybody knows that they're using the great product that you have, but in order to make them successful. It's all about them. It's not about you. Invite them to closed user groups. So in Totango, we have like users group for customers that are very active because we really rely on their feedback. So that's a great way to tell them that, thank you for this, and actually we want to hear what you're saying. And the example that I shared with you before, how to turn a crisis into opportunity. So even if you speak with a customer that is in crisis mode and something is wrong there, think about how do I actually convert this situation and make it an opportunity by providing more and more value. So you need to think what will create the wow effect with your customers, and you need to do that ideally proactively before they call you and ask for cancellation. Whenever you identify there might be a problem, you should do that. And the engagement tools that you have are, again, are really different. There's a lot of tools. Really depends on your process and product and customer base. The main thing is that you have to be proactive, and it could be a monthly account review. It could be just sending him an email, chatting with him on the phone. It could be just sending them emails about specific videos. But be smart. Just don't send them something generic. Send them something which really relates to their stage right now. Send them surveys and ask for their opinion. Invite them to webinars. T-shirts, for example, and one of the things I like to do in Totango is we do identify our champions, our advocates, which are the end users that are using Totango the most, regardless of whether they're in a small account or bigger account. And we actually are selling them T-shirts and mugs, and that's a great way to actually make them much more champions. With your customer success team, before they reach out to the customers, make sure that they're doing the right thing. First of all is focus. They need to be able to contact the right person at the right time. So learn about your customers. Learn about insights that you get from actually how they use the product, what are the things they're doing and not doing. Drill down and learn about the usage pattern, how many users they have, and mainly think about how do I drive them to value. So stop doing generic calls like, hey, it's time right now for an account review. Be prepared for this. Understand what's working for the customer, what's not. Understand what you can actually do to help them improve. And based on that, actually plan your next step, whether it's an email or whether it's an account review. It has to be focused on how do I drive this specific customer to value. And we have a lot of automatic tools for that in Totango, and there's also a lot of, again, manual tools. It really depends on your business process. Other example for engagement plays could be how to emails when you identify somebody who's stuck in the onboarding phase. Again, a simple email, and we covered a lot of these emails in the previous webinar, so feel free to attend to actually view it again. So how do I complete a specific process in my product? Identify when somebody needs help. They didn't complete a process. You know, sometimes they do like to speak with you, sometimes they're not. A simple email, that's a great example from New Relic. We identify that you haven't done something. Would you like to speak with us? Zendesk, one of our customers, a great example when they identify that somebody isn't using one of the features, views for example, they automatically implant a video in the session. And this is a specific video and of course how to use views. So again, it's not a generic one. They identify the status and stage of a customer, meaning somebody who isn't really using it the way he's supposed to, and again, providing him value, but by sending him the right content at the right time. One of the most important things that we found that's working great with Totango is actually what we call usage reflection. Think of it, you know how your customers are actually using your product. If you have a champion, usually when you're selling to a big company and you have a champion over there, he's also concerned about how do I make sure everybody in the company implements this solution? How do I make sure everybody on board with it successfully and actually using it? So you can actually provide them with information on how the company are using your product. One of the best examples is Salesforce. Salesforce on a monthly basis is actually sending you a report of saying these are the things that you've used, but more important, these are the things that you can actually cover. And you know, that's, they say that that's one of the best actually upsells tools. So expose to your customers, help your champions know how to get more done, help them understand how the colleagues are using your product or not using your product, and recommend what are the things that they actually need to do next. So usage reflection is a great tool. And another thing is, again, power users. I spoke about this briefly. How do I turn power users into ambassadors? Again, you can just simply identify people that are using you the most and just send them love. It could be a thank you note, as you see an example in the email. It could, again, it could be some gift. It could be like a T-shirt or a mug. But think about how do you share love also with your, let's say, best customer. It's not just about working with people that need help. It's also about acknowledging the people that use it the most and actually sharing the love with them. Another example would be for retention email. Again, when you identify somebody who's not active, if you're dealing with a high volume of accounts and you cannot afford that a customer success manager will speak with each one of them, run an email lifecycle marketing campaign. If you identify an event, for example, 2 weeks of inactivity, send one email. If there's another week of inactivity, send a different emails. If you guys are interested more in lifecycle marketing campaign, then I do encourage you to take a look at the website. There's a webinar we did 2 weeks ago, specifically focused on lifecycle marketing campaigns. So these were some of the examples and use cases from our customers. Again, there's a lot of other things to share, so feel free to reach out to us after this webinar. What I wanted to do now is actually speak about tracking and improving. How do I know when somebody's off track? What do I need to measure, and what are the things that I need to take a look? And again, it's not plain vanilla. It could be different for different kinds of customers, but these are the things that we do and our customers are actually doing. So first of all, start with an overall view. How am I doing in general? You know, within my customer base, you know, it's very simple. Who's green? Who's red? Who's yellow? And actually try to understand where you have problems. Also very important, if you have a team of customer success, I'd say ideally it's probably more than 3 people in the team, then also break down by the success manager. You'll find out that some people deal with accounts better than the others. So using tools like this, you'll be able to identify whether somebody needs help or not. For example, I see that Mike here is doing a good job because 80% of his accounts are green, but Ella here she probably needs some help because about 30% of her accounts are red. So again, think of also breaking down by team members. It's also about prioritizing the important accounts. We all know that we have different type of accounts. Some of them are more important than the others. That's one example of one of our customers that are using our data and build dashboard within their Salesforce for onboarding customers and ongoing customers with red, yellow, green, and actually every week the customer success manager opens this and decides who are the accounts that need attention based on many parameters that they collect from us. Another example would be, actually, if you remember before I spoke about the different lifecycle stages. You need to consider this also when you're creating a health dashboard. Here's one of our customers that actually mapped a health score, which combines the usage and number of users and frequency and coverage and so forth, but also with a different journey. So they get a very good understanding about who's the customer that needs attention right now. Don't forget to tie it with account value. I mean, eventually, you'll need to remember that customers are past money, and the monthly or yearly revenue from each one of your customers is very important. So when you are considering, what do I need to measure and what are the things that I need to look at number of accounts, but also what is the value. Here, for example, how much money do I have at risk because I have X amount of customers that are having difficulties in the onboarding process. So it's important, again, to tie the status of the customer, the stage that they are, the health score, and also with, of course, the account value. That's one of the ways to prioritize and understand who needs more attention and more love right now. It's also about executive reports. And again, think of reports that will help you understand things like, for example, are we keeping up with onboarding project? And for this, for example, you probably should measure how much time usually it takes for a customer to complete an onboarding process, and how many customers I have right now that are not there yet, and whether there's a problem with the time or a problem with the process. It could be how much revenue I'm risking right now, and how can I break down this. And actually, what's a trend of daily active users? So these kinds of reports will enable you to understand what is the problem in a specific customer, but also, again, maybe there's a problem with a specific stage or a specific process, and then you'll be able to actually plan the right get well plan. And mainly, are we getting better? So again, measure the health of your customers, but also measure, at least on a monthly basis, I usually recommend also on a weekly basis, are we doing better? Do we have more customers with good health or less than? We have more successful onboarding customers, or it takes much more time than before. So again, it could be really different on your processes, but don't forget to measure, are we getting better? Another thing to measure, and this is for more advanced companies and users, is that you can actually run a data analysis process. One thing we do offer in Totango, and try to find churn indicators. So you can have a team of data scientists that goes over your data and finds indicators that lead to churn. It could be a very generic one, like people were not active in the last 3 weeks, eventually churn. It could be, time spent on the onboarding process. It could be very specific. People that hasn't used the specific functionality are much more likely to churn. So again, one of the things you can actually do with your data is analyze what are those churn conversions. Let's speak about the results that you might expect, and obviously the main one is increased customer retention. So with our use case, customers that are using our methodology and tools actually saw an increase in customer retention by 25%, and you should measure, of course, your own success rate. But you need to remember it takes time, and it takes time and tries. So always start with improving each one of the steps and not the entire process. For example, I want to start improving my onboarding process. I want to start improving people that don't cover a lot of the functionality. Usually I do recommend to start focusing on 1 or 2 segments and not your entire customer base, and always drive to value. How would you know that you're getting better? Then of course retention rate is the main parameters, but it's a lagging parameter. I mean, you'll know that only far away after you start. Usually, what we recommend to measure is also shift in segments. For example, less user, less accounts are actually non-active. It's also should also actually you should be able to see that more people are using your product more and using more of the functionality. And as I said before, it's also about public endorsement. In my team, for example, we measure customer success also by a number of case studies. So how many people are actually very active, how many people are actually are using our product and system, how many people renew and upsells, but also how many people share their love about Totango publicly. So think about it also with your process. So the 6 main takeaways that I'd be happy if you can get from this webinar. What do you need to remember? The first one is actually you need to look at multiple data points. Your customers have a very large digital footprint. The main is how they use your product. But also other indicators like, again, attending webinars and support help desk and meetings and trainings. So you need to take a look at on the entire picture. What are the entire, let's say, complete set of things that my customers are actually doing in order to actually define a good health score. Then define the right value indicators and also the monitor signals. I share with you some examples. Think of it. How do I measure? How do I know when somebody sees value? The third one is you have to be proactive, and of course, don't forget you have to be proactive and smart. It's not just about sending them content or contact them at the right time. It's also with the right message. Always drive to value. Always try to turn a crisis into opportunity. The fourth one is not everyone the same. I mean, you may want to drive different business processes for different type of customers. You may want to actually define different value points and different monitors and signals for different size of customers. So it's okay, and you should do that because actually not every one of your customers is the same. It's also about measuring and improving. It's always changing. The market is changing, your business process is changing, your customer base is changing, competition is changing. Always measure and improve. Are we doing the right things? Did we hit our targets? What are the things that we need to actually improve and get it back to work? And the last thing is, don't forget to love your champions. Again, most of the customer success organization I work with initially focus on people that needs attention, and they're right. I mean, most of your attention should go there, but spend some time, make it a habit, maybe a day in a month, to speak with your champions, share their love, share your love with them, and also get their love. It's very important. Things that you can either share internally with your company or ideally also externally will actually help you get much more value also from your existing champions. Our call to actions is always create recurring value and revenue will follow. So always drive to value.